Okay, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Today,
Tov.
Laila Tov, Erev Tov. She said Laila Tov is a really good night. Today we're going to learn about obviously Yisrael. Exactly. You said Laila Tov. Barbara's and the rabbi's speaking. It's like a perfect. All we got to do is put on the ambience, and ready to go to sleep. It's like the rabbi's talking with a white noise. That's it. So today we're going to learn about obviously Yisrael. We're going to learn about love of a fellow Jew. And the idea is, how do we love another Jew, no matter what? And the question is, how do we look upon another person? Now, obviously Yisrael, love of a fellow Jew. From this point on, I'm just going to say obviously Yisrael. So if actually, I'll do that. Let me put my thing on vibrate also. So usually the first thing, you come to Hebrew school. Next one, class 5. The first thing you do when you come to Hebrew school or you come into shul, you learn about obviously Yisrael and a lot of congregations, Avos Shalom, Avos Achim. The concept of love of a fellow Jew is very, very. I'm going to be on page 73. Yeah. It's very, very familiar to anyone who's walked into a Jewish institution, and if you learn about. You go to Leviticus, and you read about the mitzvah of "V'ahavta l'recha kamecha," love your fellow as yourself. The famous comment by Rashi. We got you, Larry. The famous comment by Rashi that Rabbi Akiva says this is the general principle of the entire Torah. But we all know that you're supposed to love your fellow. But the question is, how do you love your fellow? What method are you supposed to take to love your fellow? It's very easy to say love your fellow. The question is, how do you do it? Or to share with you a bad joke. It was a guy who was a kindergarten teacher, and in front of his house, they redid the sidewalk, and some kids came and started making their names, and he started screaming at them. He said, "Hey, I thought you were a kindergarten teacher. I thought you loved kids." I said, "I only love kids in the abstract, not in the concrete." Right.
That sounds like a Larry joke.
Yeah. I said, there you go. So, it's easy to love Jews that you like. But how do you love a Jew you don't like? Manis Friedman, by the way, has a great series about family. It's terrific. I think it's a 12 class series. I have it here. If anyone wants to listen to it, you'll let me know. But one of the questions he asks over there is, how do you like the people you love? Because you have the people in your family you love, but you don't necessarily like them.
This is true.
Right? That's true. It's a very, very good series about family. I highly recommended listening.
Okay.
So how do you love? How do you like the people you're supposed to love, or how do you love the people you don't like? Because there are people that we don't like. I'm not going to go on camera saying who, right? But
I can give you a list.
Exactly. Since you asked, no one asked.
Not on camera.
But if the Torah would have said, you should try to be kind to everybody. Kind I can do, because kind I leave my feelings of anger, animosity, or jealousy, whatever it is inside, and I'm kind to you. But Torah says, no, I don't want you to be kind. Obviously you're kind. I want you to love the person. And then Alter Rebbe says something, you have to love a Jew you never even met. How do I love someone I never even met? Okay. So
You meet someone you never even loved.
So in this week's Torah portion, it's called the Parshat Yitro. We're not going to get into it, why it's called the portion of Yitro, when it should be called something else. Well, seemingly should be called something else. Because the greatest event in human history happens in this week's Torah portion. That is the giving of the Torah on Mount Sinai. The one and only event of mass revelation. Unlike every other revelation was God spoke to Moses, God spoke to Isaiah, God spoke to Jeremiah, God spoke to, that's all one guy. There's been one time in history, and it'll never occur again, mass revelation where God spoke to the masses. And he gave us, the Jewish people and humanity, the code for life, the meaning for life. So this is the greatest event in history. Not only that, it's the event why the world was created. So if you look in Genesis chapter 1, you might be familiar with this verse because this is how we start off Kiddush on Friday night. Yom HaShishi. Now, all the other days it says Yom Echad, day 1, day 2. By Friday it says Yom HaShishi. It doesn't say Yom Shishi, day 6. It says Ha in Hebrew, the Hey before letter, the Hey before word means it's referring to a specific item. Like if you remember when we did the Parshat Shemot, I think we mentioned this, when it talks about the donkey that Moshe took down to Egypt. It doesn't say Moshe saddled his donkey. It says Moshe saddled the donkey. You remember this concept? And we said it was the same donkey that Avram used. It's the same donkey the Mashiach is going to use. It's a specific donkey. So here, it's not just any day 6. It's the day 6. Why? Because the Torah was given on the 6th of Sivan. Referencing that the whole reason why the world was created was for the 6th of Sivan when the world was created, when the Torah was given. No Torah, then the world has no purpose. So again, we're not going to get into why isn't the Torah called Sinai, Torah, I don't know, something more, why Yitro, but we're not going to get into that.
The revelation,
whatever it is. Okay, but in chapter 19, someone here? Well, obviously someone's there.
Mice.
Yeah, exactly. So in chapter 19, it begins the whole saga of the giving of the Torah, and it says the Jewish people traveled from Refidim, and they camped in the desert of the Sinai desert. And they camped in the desert, and they camped by the mountain. Now, time for a little bit grammar lesson. Everyone look at the Hebrew, okay? If you look at the first word, vayisu, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Vayisu? You see the last vowel there is a kubutz, a vav, and a dot.
Mm-hmm. Where are we?
The first word.
Text 1.
Text 1, first word. You see that?
Yisu.
Yeah. That u in Hebrew makes it plural. So vayisu and they journeyed from Refidim. Next, the third word, vayavayu, and the verb is arrive, and they arrived. Okay? Next, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, sixth word, vayachanu. Sixth word?
Yeah.
Vayachanu, the verb is camp. Vayachanu, and they camped. Okay? Because we're talking about 2.5 million people. So obviously the verb should be in plural. But if you go to the third to last word on the line, Vayichan, three words from the end of the line, Vayichan. Vayichan literally means, and he camped. It's singular. Vayichan, and he camped. Vayichan Shem Yisrael, and Yisrael camped there. What happened? The whole verse.
He ran out of bugs with it done.
Yeah, exactly. The whole verse is plural. Why this word singular?
Typo.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they count as a collective.
So text number 2, Rashi asked this question. Thank you. So Rashi, bring your stick or
It
something.
could be your one
Say, I'm
man
not
son.
tanking again.
Yeah, exactly. You go ahead of us, man, because to make sure everything's okay. So text number 2 says, like Michael J. said very nicely. So if you look at text number 2, Rashi says because they camped as one person, as opposed to all the other encampments, they always had problems. Excuse me. Thank you. So there were 42 encampments in the desert. 41, there was a argument of some kind. Well, this one was all peace, and so what was so special that happened at Sinai? Well, the Torah happened at Sinai. Because of the Torah, the Jewish people the Jewish people were one. So now it's interesting. If you look at text number 3, Maimonides points out, did the Torah cause the unity or did the unity cause the Torah? Someone was definitely there.
Yeah. Somebody used the men's room. Is Mandy here?
Who?
Mendy.
Mendy.
Yeah, Mendy's here.
Yeah, Mendy. But there's a men's room in building B. Yeah, he is there. Oh, okay.
It's the only thing I can think of, because I even went back out to the parking lot just to count cars.
That's so weird. All right. Okay.
Ghosts.
We came in
goblins.
one car, so.
I saw that.
So,
What happened to the other car?
so Maimonides says
in the
that
hospital.
Maimonides says that the Torah causes peace. You see, look at text number 3. That so great is the Torah, the Torah causes peace. What's the obvious question?
When we were at war.
No, I'm not talking about war or peace. We're talking about harmony in the community. What's the obvious question? You open up the Torah, you open up the Gemara, and you can't go 3 lines without an argument. What are you talking about peace? You open up the Gemara, it says this is what the law is. That's the law is. You're wrong. Yes. You call that
Two Jews meet in the desert and they have 3 opinions.
exactly right? But you should know so what does it mean? The Torah is about peace. You think peace is all about one opinion, one face. The Torah is everything's arguing, and there's a lot of arguments in the Mishnah and the Gemara. Sometimes the rabbis say very strong things about each other. I've often quoted Rabbeinu Tam, who said about his own grandfather, because Rabbeinu Tam is Rashi's grandson, and he argued a lot. Rashi's grandsons argued a lot with him. And Rabbeinu Tam once said, "My grandfather was sleeping when he wrote this."
He was what?
Sleeping when he
Sleeping
wrote
it.
When he what?
wrote this.
Wrote
When he
it.
wrote it. Okay.
W-R-O-T-E.
There's someone there.
Here he comes.
Hey,
human
there you go.
person.
There you go. So maybe.
So they argued so much they had their own style to fill in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there you go.
So some people put forth the argument or the answer that when God gave us Torah, it was beautiful. You know who messed it up? Human beings. We messed it up. Becomes the Medrash and says that's not true. The Medrash says, look at text number 4.
You got a choice of 3 different ones.
Yeah.
Just
We want you to get fat in 3 different ways. Because the Medrash in text number 4, this is on page 74, this is Medrash Tehillim, it says, the words of the Torah are not stated definitively. When Moshe went up on Mount Sinai, God told him the 49 ways you can learn pure, 49 ways you can learn impure. So Moshe says to God, whoa, it's chaos. What do you mean? How are we ever going to find a ruling? So God says, follow the majority. The majority says, pure is pure. But following the majority is not peace. Following the majority is, now, not now, in the U.S. government, what are they fighting for? Power. And you need to have 51 seats in the Senate or whatever it is. Why? So, because if you have the majority and the other side can't pass a bill, that's not peace. I just can't state my opinion because...
Well, no, in this country you can state your opinion and then everybody can say,
What do you mean? Everyone gets an opinion these days. You go on
everyone's
TikTok and
entitled to
everyone...
their opinion.
Yeah. So
We
it's-
have freedom of speech with
To a
certain
point.
limitations.
But by the way, freedom of speech also means the freedom to be quiet.
Yes.
Are you trying to tell me something?
No, I'm talking about those people who give. I was watching a video today. Some guy giving an opinion about Israel. Remember, some American guy, or so it's a British guy. We're going to work for ceasefire. Very, very strong opinions. Thank you very much. Anyway.
It's better
But the
to
point-
be silent and thought. It's better to be silent and thought a fool than to open your mouth and prove it.
Remove all doubt.
Remove all that.
all doubt. Thank you.
Yeah. So what does it mean? So here the Torah is a way of peace, and God's telling him the majority rules. That's peace. It's not peace. Guys are.
It's democratic, though.
It's not, but democratic's not peace, though. just because,
Hey, if the majority's.
You know, I remember-
Feather,
I remember when I first got married. When I first got married, Cyril would say sometimes, I spoke to my mother, she had an idea. So I would say, do I even get an opinion now, or there's no even point of saying anything because that's it, you and your mother spoke, the High Court has handed down a judgment, and us,
This was after the marriage, right?
yeah.
Okay, so then you knew.
No, I'm saying, so the point is, what is majority doesn't mean peace. It just means the minority disagrees. It's just you're outnumbered. That's not peace. So here we're going to get into the Torah's understanding of what peace means. And we'll actually talk about, I'll mention marriage also. Usually we think of peace as one. The Torah doesn't understand peace as one. Peace is not one. Peace is three. Three is a peaceful number in the Torah, not one. Let's look at. So 1 plus 1 equals 3, by the way. There's math, there's girl math, and then there's Torah math.
like two parallel lines never meet, usually.
1 plus 1 equals 3. Let's look. Okay. So in this week's Parsha, it says, see text number 5, in chapter 19, verse 1, it says, in the 3rd month, when they left Egypt, in that day, they came to Sinai. Now, if you remember from other classes, every word in the Torah is exact. Not only every word, the layout of the Torah is exact. So it's proper to study every verse and to see that the layout will teach us something. Now, the layout of this verse could have been different. The layout could have been Jewish people camped in the Sinai desert in the 3rd month. But no, it starts off the verse saying, in the 3rd month, went from going out of Egypt, the Jewish people camped in the desert. Now the message is exactly the same. But the fact that the 3rd month is put in the beginning of the verse tells us that it's important. It's an important detail. 3rd month. Why? What's the big deal? So comes the Gemara, and it says, 3 is a very beautiful number, the Gemara says. Text number 6, this is in the Gemara Shabbos. The Gemara says, blessed is God, the merciful one, who gave a 3-fold Torah. Now, let's see if you guys, why is it a 3-fold Torah? No? Come on, guys.
Kohen, Levi.
That's not Torah. That's a 3-fold people. It's a 3-fold nation. What's the 3-fold Torah?
Well, it's in a scroll. It's
No.
rolled, so it's not folded.
No. The Torah is divided into 3 sections. What are the 3 sections of the Torah?
The beginning, the middle, and the end.
Remember I told you about the right to be quiet? You have the Torah, the prophets, and the writings. Tanakh.
Oh.
Tanakh. Torah, the 5 books of Torah. How many books of Torah? What is it? 15 books of the, or 14 books of the prophets and 5 books of the writings. Okay? And by means of the 3rd born, Moshe was the 3rd born, Miriam was the oldest, Aaron was the 2nd, Moshe was the 3rd. On the 3rd day, in the 3rd month, everything's 3. Oh, so everything. Now, what's so beautiful about 3? Because you would think the opposite. If I want to show peace, I show 1. Right? We're all one, unit. 3 is not peace. 3 is everyone's going in their own direction. Or like Larry said, 2 Jews, 3 opinions. You just show me how it's almost like the Torah said, because you guys always fight, we'll make a beautiful thing about it. But
There you go.
imagine a football team and now says we got together and we became 3 and we went out there as a 3 team and we won. Usually got together as 1. 3, it doesn't make any sense, right?
That sounds like curling to me.
Right. Sweeping
One
ice.
guy throws, 2 guys sweep. 3.
Yeah, it's like my house. One kid makes a mess and both parents are cleaning up. Yeah, see?
Who did that?
So
Not me.
exactly. So the beautiful thing. So now we're going to understand. So now we're going to understand what the Torah understands this piece. One. What does one mean?
One's the loneliest
This
number.
number that he'll ever do.
The way we understand one.
One is that fellow, the Mexican guy that does the lawn.
Alone.
Okay, Larry, you've reached your limit.
And this is without alcohol.
I know he's terrible.
Well, I cut my own loose.
Thank God. So you don't know who one is.
Yeah,
So,
200.
When we say Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, Hashem is one. There's a whole discussion, by the way.
Not balance.
There are different ways in Hebrew to say one.
Whatever.
There's one
Echad,
and Yachid. Echad and Yachid.
Yachid,
Yeah. Yachid means one. Yachid means the only one. It all depends. The way the Torah looks at one is a simplistic one, not a composite. One. Right? When you have a sandwich, a bagel, right, and cream cheese, it's two things coming together as one, right?
like a sandwich.
Yeah, but one is nothing. One color. What's one color? Nothing. You don't look at this wall and say, "That's a beautiful wall." What's one word? One note. It's nothing. It's a single entity. It's nothing. Right? What's two? Two is difference. Two is separation. By the way, going back to Genesis,
It's a pair.
how do you say first in Hebrew?
First,
First. Do you know?
No.
Rishon.
Rishon is first. It says the first day of creation. It doesn't say Vahiyera Vayivoker Yom Rishon. It was evening, it was morning, first day. Because the second day it says Yom Sheni. Second day. The first day it says Yom Echad. It says day one. It doesn't say first day, it says day one. Why? Because on that day it was God alone. Yichud Shalom. The second day, out of all the days, the second day is referred to as like the most negative day. What did God do on the second day? Well, you guys went to Hebrew school? Come on.
I didn't go to Hebrew school.
I guess it was upon the face of the deed.
That was the first day.
And
And the second day, God separated. On the second day, God separated. So what's the significance of two? Separation. You're on this side. I'm on that side. Right? You have your opinion. You have your wrong opinion. I have my opinion. Right? Everyone's entitled to their
You
own
can have
wrong.
my opinion too.
Exactly. Everyone's entitled to their own wrong opinion. Right? Right?
And I share mine all the time.
So what's two? Two is division. Two means when there's two, each one's clamoring for supremacy. Each one wants to be the top. Three is yichud. What three? When you have three, when you have two words, nothing's happening. When you have three words, you got a sentence. When you put two colors together, what do you have? A third color. A third color. Three is yichud. Yichud means unity. Unity is not one. Or in English, you can call composite unity, composite one, and simple one. Simple one, it's one. God is the only simple one. There is nothing else. There's nothing inside. Right? What's water? Water's water. Right? I mean, oh no, it's H2O, right? First time.
Yeah, she won't let me say it.
Yeah.
Okay. Water is three.
Exactly.
H2O.
Exactly. But
Yeah,
say
but
God,
they're numbered.
God is the only simple one. Everything else is composite, right? So the beautiful thing about three, the idea of three, is two things come together to unite, to make something else. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So there's Yachid, one. No one else. There's two, which is division, and then there's three, which is Yichud. A unity. So unity is beauty. So this is what God's teaching Moshe. When you learn Torah, there are different ways you could learn the Torah, because all these different opinions come together. You know, let me give the example, and then we'll get back into it. Which Talmud is always learned in the yeshiva? The Babylonian or the Jerusalem?
The Babylonian.
Babylonian.
Which is clear?
Jerusalem.
Jerusalem is case, law. Case, law. The Babylonian Talmud, they're arguing back and forth. Why do you learn the Babylonian? It seems... So, I mean, if we just want the law and all those guys are wrong, then why bother? Why, let's say you find a book of theology or philosophy, or, does anyone study Aristotle these days?
No.
No.
They know who he was. They know what he did.
Forget what
But
he
they
did.
don't know,
His
they
ideas.
don't know the specifics of how he taught.
I'm saying, but his
Somebody
ideas.
can Take philosophy 101.
I'm saying, but
College.
a lot of his ideas. No one's going to study, no one's going to study the art of the flat Earth or bloodletting. Bloodletting was a medical procedure. It used to be.
They still do it.
Well, who does it?
Bloodletting.
Who does it?
Medical science still does it today
No, they don't.
for a reason. Yeah.
Where?
If you have too much iron in your blood, they let the blood.
It's a very,
It is a medical procedure.
very, very limited. But in the olden days, they did it for pretty much everything. What I'm saying is, certain things we know now are wrong. We don't do them. We don't study them. Why bother studying them? The knowledge has been, maybe in the past we didn't know, so you studied it. But now we know.
Yeah, hemochromatosis, I think is what it's called.
Right. So why bother studying the Gemara if you're not gonna follow those opinions anyway? They're wrong. So why bother? Just get to the law, right? What's his name? That redneck comedian, Jeff Foxworthy. He has a whole bit of making fun of cliches. The one who says it's always in the last place you look.
Yeah.
Did you find it yet? Yeah, but I'm gonna keep looking, right? It doesn't make any sense. So obviously, it's not the case. Obviously, that in the learning, in finding out how the law comes, that's all part of it. All that comes together. Yeah, all that comes together to. I think the air conditioner's off. That's why I didn't turn the air conditioner on because it's cold outside. I didn't want Barbara to freeze.
Amazing.
Yeah, all that, all those come together to create the beauty, the symphony of learning. It's true that halacha means, what is the word halacha? Halacha means the way you go. You can only practice one way. You can't have chaos, people doing different things. But it doesn't mean we reject everything that got us to this point. And we see how do we learn out? Because the Torah is very, very concise. Torah actually is sometimes very cryptic, and we don't know. So we look at the Medrash. The two, by the way, there's just as a note, there's two types of Midrashim. There's the Medrash with stories. I'm putting on the air conditioner a little bit. There's Medrash with stories and Medrash with law. See, the Medrash in text number 7 is not a Medrash of stories. This is a Medrash of law. Some people say, it's only a Medrash. But we actually, you might recognize this because this is something we say every single day. It's on page 25. I don't know if you're familiar that Torah gives us 13 principles. Now the 13th of the 13 principles is, let's say you have two verses contradict each other. So what do you do? There's a third verse that balances them. Again, the idea of 3. Look at text 8, 9, 10, and 10b. Text 8 says that God came down on Mount Sinai, this week's Parshat. And then in text 9, it says that God spoke to the Jewish people from the heavens. Which one is it? Did God come down on Mount Sinai? Or God come down, or God stay in the heavens? So then you have the text 10a, the third one. It's very dull. Then you have text 10a, which teaches us that he heard his voice to instruct you, but in the earth he showed his fire, and Rashi explains his glory was in the heaven, but his power was on earth. So this is what it is. So that the third verse comes together to show how everything is included. It's not a rejection of one, as you see on the screen. Categories of unity. One is simple unity, preceding any division. 3 is the unity that arises from the unification of two entities. It now becomes a sophisticated entity. So, the difference between let's say Jewish law and say the Supreme Court. In the Supreme Court, a case will come, and they'll issue a ruling, and then they'll have a dissenting view. In Jewish law, there's no dissenting view. The whole argument only happens before they vote on the law. Because remember, we said that it goes according to the majority. Once the majority votes, this is the halacha, there is no dissenting view. This is the halacha that everyone agrees to. And there are some stories in the Gemara of a rabbi who was so sure he was right, he didn't want to go with the majority view. And the rabbi told him, you start with that garbage, we'll send you flying out of here. That doesn't fly, because the Torah law is that once the Beis Din decides the law, this is the law. It means, and your question, let's say you had one opinion, I had another opinion, and the majority votes like me, it doesn't mean you're wrong. No, your arguments helped us get to this point. So your opinion is included, huh?
Equally valued.
But it's included in the law, because sometimes, by the way, you find in the Gemara and in Halacha that let's say the Halacha will be like Ira and not like Larry. But because of Larry's opinion, we'll know how to apply it in, let's say, an extreme circumstance. So all the opinions come together to make the law. So it's not that it's a compromise between two opinions. No, they come together to make a law. And by the way, sometimes the halacha will say, straight out, we do it like this guy and totally not like that guy. But that guy is still part of the opinion, and because of that, he's not allowed to reject it or go against it.
But you still have the diverging opinions, which produce diverging practices.
No. So,
They-
hold on a second.
to fill it.
No. So I'll explain. The reason why we have diverging practices is all those divergent practices only exist after the abolishment of the Sanhedrin, the Supreme Court. In the days of the Sanhedrin, there were no divergent opinions. There were divergent opinions, but they were decided by the Supreme Court, and once the Supreme Court decides it, that's it, over. All the differences between Sfardim, Ashkenaz, and Tefillin, whatever it is, only began because of the abolishment of the Supreme Court.
And what caused the abolishment of the Supreme Court?
The Romans.
The Babylonians?
Romans.
The Romans.
Yeah,
not the
continued.
Babylonians.
But no, Babylonians they destroyed the first temple. The Romans destroyed the second temple, but the Supreme Court continued. But the Romans wanted to squash Judaism. So they understood that they had to abolish it. So the Supreme Court, they tried to escape, but it became untenable. So that's why Maimonides is buried in Tiberias. He's buried in Tiberia, because the Supreme Court was abolished in Tiberia, and we have a tradition that it's going to reconvene in Tiberia when Mashiach comes. Okay, so talking about courts and all of that. So in the old, now we have a calendar, but in the olden days, there was no calendar. Rosh Chodesh was decided by the court. How? By witnesses. We read about this last week, that God decided, not because we don't know the math, we know the math, but God decided in His infinite wisdom that the way we declare Rosh Chodesh is, the court would know. They knew a month was 29 and in a quarter days, whatever it is. So they said, if the witnesses come today, then Rosh Chodesh is tomorrow. If they come today and they said we saw the moon last night, then Rosh Chodesh is tomorrow. If they don't come, then that's how you get 2 days Rosh Chodesh, right? Because a month is 29 and a half days. So either tomorrow is day number 1 or it's day 30. And so there's a story in the Gemara where the witnesses come and they testify they saw the moon. And the rabbis declared it's Rosh Chodesh. But this wasn't just any month. This was the month of Tishrei, which is, if you don't know when day 1 is, you don't know when Rosh Hashanah is, you don't know when Yom Kippur is, you don't know when Sukkot is. It's an important month. A month like Cheshvan, big deal. You can adjust it. But the month of Tishrei is a complicated month. And so and it's not like they believed any Tom, Dick, or Harry walking over the street. They cross-examined them. What position was the moon? Because the rabbis, again, they knew the math. If you know the math, you know exactly where the moon's going to be, the position of the moon, and everything. The degrees, the crescent, which way the horn, the points are. The rabbis knew everything. It's not, again, like I said, it's by God's decree that it should go by witnesses. It's a very interesting law. Why? The rabbis come out the next night, no moon. If you saw the moon a little bit the night before, you should see the moon the next day a little bit more. No moon. Obviously, it was a clear sky. They should have seen a moon. They didn't see a moon.
And they know where to look anyway.
Right. So the witnesses were lying. Seemingly so. So a whole argument erupted in the Beis Medrash. Rabbi Gamliel, who was the Nasi, who was the leader of the Jewish people, he was the Av Bezin, he was the head of the Supreme Court, said, although we don't see the moon, we still believe the witnesses, because that's the way the Torah said. And we're keeping Rosh Chodesh yesterday. Rabbi Yeshua said, no, the guys are lying. Obviously, Rosh Chodesh wasn't yesterday. Rosh Chodesh is today. What's the difference? The difference is in 10 days from now. When's Yom Kippur? Right? It's a big difference. And Rabbi Yeshua wasn't he made a big deal about it. So look at text number 11. This is the Gemara Rosh Hashanah. Rabbi Gamliel sends Rabbi Yeshua and tells him, on the day that you say is Yom Kippur, you're going to show up to the yeshiva, you're going to show up to the study hall, and you're going to have your wallet and your walking stick. Now, obviously, everybody knows in Yom Kippur, you're not allowed to carry, and you're not allowed to use money. So you're going to come on the day that you say is Yom Kippur, because remember, there was a day early. Rabbi Yeshua said it was going to be a day later. You're going to come to show, number one, to show that you accept the ruling. We don't accept not vigilantes or guys who do whatever they want. Guys who not take the law into their own hands. Guys who think they can
Lone wolves.
Lone wolves. The question is, why did Rabbi Gamliel have to make Rabbi Yeshua schlep to the yeshiva in Yavne? Why did he specifically tell him you got to bring your staff and your money? The answer is because Rabbi Gamliel didn't need to show that he was the boss of Rabbi Yeshua. He was already the boss, and his ruling was binding. That's not. Rabbi Gamliel was the head of the Supreme Court, and whatever he says goes. What Rabbi Gamliel was trying to show is that in the Torah, after we have the discussion and we come to a consensus, that's the law. There are no loose fringes and edges. We all come together. There's one Torah, and we all come together for one service of God. We don't have people doing, whatever they want. Unfortunately, you have that today. You have chaos. Absolute chaos. People saying, people who don't know, I'm on camera, so you can't say the whole, the correct saying. And that's your interpretation. My interpretation is, but excuse my French, but who the hell do you think you are? You don't have a right to an interpretation. Just because you're a Jew, you're Jewish and you got your rabbinical certificate online, no. You don't have a right to an interpretation.
If it's online, it's got to be true.
But I wish I was joking.
If it's in the New York Times, it's gotta be true.
Exactly. The point. So I'm saying the point is that when you have the consensus of experts come together and say this is the law, it's the whole panel. It all comes together to make one Torah. That's peace. When different people and different perspectives come together to make something, that's peace. And this is and now we're going to get into the idea of the third month and why that's so special. Because I mean, you think a better month to give the Torah was in Tishrei, right? Tishrei, you have Rosh Hashanah, you have Yom Kippur. That's a good month. I mean,
They already have stuff.
yeah.
So
Right. So what is it about Sivan? Just the fact that it's the third month that makes it unique. Because there's a difference in the 3 months. Going back to what we said about 1, 2, and 3 before. The 1 is simple unity, just 1. 2 is division, and 3 is unity. What happened in the month of Nisan? Month of Nisan, God said, "Guys, get behind me. I'm going to take care of everything. You don't do anything." He actually told the Jewish people in the month of Nisan, "Be quiet," or in vulgar language, "Shut up. You don't got to do anything." We learned this last week. When Jewish people are by the Reed Sea and they're crying, what does God tell them?
Cool it.
Just be quiet. I'll take care of everything. There's no you. There's just me here, right? What did Paro say about God? Right? He's the boss. That is it's called Gilui Milmaila. It's revelation from above. God showed He's boss. He showed that He's the only one on the earth and He's the one in control. There was no Jewish participation over here. What did the Jewish people do by the Exodus? Nothing. They walked out. There was nothing they did to participate in the Exodus. The whole month of Nisan represents revelation from above. Think about it like sunlight. The sun's shining to everyone equally. There's no sunshine. I know, isn't there a saying, sun's shining on you? The sun shines equally everywhere. It doesn't make a difference. Right? That's the month of Nisan. The month of Iyar is very, very different. What mitzvah do we have in the month of Iyar? The month after Passover, what mitzvah do we have?
Second Passover.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
But it's a daily mitzvah.
After Passover.
Daily mitzvah.
Passover.
Mm-hmm.
Daily mitzvah that
Every day.
every day.
49 days.
Counting
49.
the Omer.
Counting the Omer. Why do we have the mitzvah counting the Omer? Because the Jewish people, they went out of Exodus. And they weren't candidates to receive the Torah. They're a bunch of bums. I think we covered this
Last week.
a few weeks ago when we spoke about the Karban Pesach. So every day they worked on themselves. Every day there was improvement until they get to the giving of the Torah at Sinai. So now your improvement and my improvement so you have sunlight and you have experience. So the sun's shining the same in New York as in Florida. But no one's running to New York in January. You can, but you're an idiot. Right? Where's everyone running to? Florida. Why? Because the experience of the sun here is better. So Nisan is revelation, and revelation is equally. Iyar is experience, and everyone has a different experience. So you can have one speech, the guy saying one idea, and different people understand it totally different. Right? So Iyar is differentiation, because people have a totally different experience. What's Sivan? Sivan is a combination of the two. We have the godly revelation and human experience come together. Oh, and that's peace. Come look at what the Rebbe says in text number 13. It says, following Nisan and Iyar comes the month of Sivan, the third month, the month of the giving of the Torah. Torah unites all Jews in a manner of one heart, namely, notwithstanding the different temperaments of different Jews, which it could at times lead to complaints and arguments. Torah creates peace amongst different temperaments to the point to become one. And now we can understand how we can look at God willing, one day we'll get to chapter 32 of Tanya. I know now we're holding what, chapter 11, 12? I think we're starting chapter 12.
Yeah, sounds right.
And the whole chapter 12 of Tanya, it speaks about loving a fellow Jew. And Alter Rebbe says, if you put the soul, the priority over the body, it's very easy because the soul comes from God. So now the question you see over here, text number 14, Alter Rebbe writes, so it's a very easy way to love your fellow Jew because we all come from one Father and we're all the same. So now you might ask a question to end off one final point. So if that's the case, why is the soul coming to the body in the first place? Just create souls. If you have souls, then you have unity, right? The Alter Rebbe says the way you have love of a fellow Jew is you look at his soul, not his body. So why bother putting a soul in a body? Just have a soul. Because the soul is one. There is no coming together. You're one. It's not like there's my soul and your soul and I love you because no. We are one. That's the Jewish people. Where do we see difference? With the body. So the idea is or in other words, going back to what we said before, the unity without the body, it's like we said before, simple unity. It's one. The unity of the within the body, that's comprehensive unity. That's when the collective unity, when all people come together, then you create a new unit. So, for example, in a marriage, what happens when two people get married, or what's supposed to happen? Rather, I should say, what's supposed to happen when two people get married? If two people get married, and there remain two people that are married, and you have your thing and I have my thing, we just happen to have a living arrangement, that marriage is not going to work. Because they see each other as two independent beings with a living arrangement, whatever it is. And as soon as the convenience ends, then, according to halacha, the two people come together and make a new unit. That's why, according to halacha, a man and a woman can do mitzvahs for each other. Why can't you put on tefillin for me, for example? Because we're different, right? Right? You can't light the menorah for me. I have my own mitzvah.
You have your own menorah, you like
You're
right.
obligated.
But each person, but husband and wife, we don't find that. Husband and wife, she lights the Shabbos candles, he lights the menorah, the separation of the challah. Every mitzvah that they have that applies to men and women, one can do for the other. Why? Because they come together to be a new unit. That's unity. When two things come together to make a third thing. That's shalom. So the problem that we have as a society in the United States, for example, and in marriages is that Republicans and Democrats don't realize that we're Americans. The Republicans and Democrats, there shouldn't be all Republicans in government, shouldn't be all Democrats. The American government works when there are Republicans and Democrats to make up one. And the problem is when it's your party and my party has to win. No, you're missing. You're missing the idea. That was the genius of Abraham Lincoln. What he said, we're one unit made up of different peoples. I don't remember the exact saying, but so this is how marriages work, how friendships work. You look at something greater than yourself.
The house divided among itself cannot stand.
Right.
Abe Lincoln.
Yeah, but after the Civil War, what do you say about the Confederates? You said with malice toward none. Okay. So a lot of people in the North, they wanted to take revenge against the South. But Abraham Lincoln saw larger. He saw, no, we're all part of one country, and therefore, no, we're not going to punish them. That was one of the greatest things. Maybe after George Washington stepping down, it's one of the greatest events in American history. The idea to be able to see the unit greater than yourself, greater than the individual. That's why the United States is the land of peace. Should be. When we make it about me, then it's not a unit. It's a living arrangement, and living arrangements, they tend to fall apart because interests. or marriages, our interest, we drifted apart and everything else. But if the whole thing is geared towards a single goal, then there's less chances of it happening. Not that it can't happen, it does happen, but it's less chances. All right, key points. The Torah is billed as a Torah of peace, which ways are peaceful. Jewish people are in peaceful state of unity when receiving the Torah. Two types of unity, 1 and 3. One is singular, extensively, that bars all other existence. The latter is composite, that transforms dissent into cohesive unity. Halachic ruling is issued by majority is considered to be unanimous, notwithstanding any dissenting opinions, because once the halachic ruling is rendered, everyone agrees. While looking past the body to our common soul in an effective way, the greater path is to love the soul in the body. That's the greatest peace. And again, it's late, but it also touches upon the idea the Mashiach comes, the soul is going to come back into the body, because that is the ultimate balance. Everyone have a very good week, and we'll see you on Shabbos or Thursday or Tanya, whichever it is.
Tomorrow night, Minyan, Thursday morning.